Okay, we're about to get ready to start here. I'm probably going to wait just a couple more minutes, but I've got an Addison on here that Addison, you don't have your last name in there. So if you can go into your profile and put your last name, this is going to help with attendance.
I'm trying. Just give me a minute.
Okay, okay. I'd also like it if everybody would put their cameras on too, please. Ah, there we go. That's much better. That's much better. Kind of a small crowd here tonight. I was really expecting more. Now, are all of you in the math class tomorrow night? Yes? No.
Most of us.
Most of you are. Okay. I had one call earlier today from somebody that said during the meeting tomorrow, there's a math class. Well, I wasn't aware of any math class, so I don't know what we're going to do about that. That's why I was expecting more people here tonight. So anyway, I think we're gonna go ahead and get started here, Danny. If you can get your camera on, and then Addison, once you get your name figured out, if you can get your camera on too, and then please keep it on for the duration. I'll try to make this just as fast as I possibly can, but at the same time, I want to make sure that everybody understands this. So if there's any confusion, or if I manage to confuse you at any point, just take yourself off mute and ask a question. I don't want to have to wait until the very end and not know whether somebody's forgotten to ask a question or not. So here we are with the handbook. And if you have not done the acknowledgement, please get this taken care of right away. If you've already done it, please don't do it again. We're going to go through the handbook very quickly, but it'll be your responsibility to make sure that you go over this more thoroughly once we get done. So we got a handy dandy table of contents here, and I've tried to label these so that if you've got questions about any particular thing, you should be able to find it just based off the index or the table of content. And my plan is to get this posted to YouTube. And then once I get today's meeting and tomorrow's meeting posted to YouTube through the EAB system, like I've been sending the notifications out, I will go ahead and I will send you the links so that if anybody wants to refer back to the recordings, they can refer back to the recordings. Okay, this first page is just contact information for educator preparation services, which I'm going to refer to as EPS just because it's easier to say. But please take note of this, and if you've got your hard copy in front of you, go ahead and highlight some of these things. If you've got questions related to teacher education program admissions or certification, then you want to contact Ms. Music. If it's about field experiences, clinical teaching, the year-long resident, that kind of thing, you'll want to contact Ms. Lanier. The only thing that you'll be contacting me about is certification testing. That's all I handle. But because I have a tendency to be the face of the office, a lot of times people contact me for all their questions. I'm sorry, the only thing I can help you with is just your testing questions. So keep that in mind. And then, of course, Dr. Jones, which I think you've already met with him earlier in the semester. So he can address any questions that you might have as well. Okay, so this handbook, I'm sorry about the jumpy mouse here. I don't know what's going on. I've changed my battery. I think the wheel is giving out on this. I might need to get a new mouse. So this handbook covers two different processes. One is what you're doing, and you're doing this in your 3331 class to gain testing approval for the PPR, the content, and the STR if it's applicable, and then how to register for the actual exams. So this handbook has taken me a lot of time to put together, and I've included just about anything you could possibly think of. But the only way this is going to be useful for you is if you actually use it. And I'm hoping that you will. So if at any time you have questions, please consult the handbook first. If you cannot find the answer in here, then contact me. But I really want you to use this handbook and if at all possible. If you hear anything outside of this meeting or that's not in the handbook that's related to the testing process, it's probably not true. So if it's in here, this is what we're going to go by. If it's not in here and you need clarification, then say, hey, there's a rumor going around that we have to blah, blah, blah. Then give me a call and I'll clear that up. It usually happens every semester. Something starts around and it's like, no, it's not in the handbook. We did not talk about that. So no, don't pay any attention to it. Before you begin either process, there's a couple of housekeeping things. The first one is everybody should be logging into their TEAL account, their TEA login account. You need to be checking to make sure that you've entered your legal first and last name. You're going to want to make sure that that matches whatever legal form of identification you'll be using when you test, that you've entered your correct social security number and date of birth, that you supplied an email account that you actually use. Now, TEA is not going to contact you for any reason if it's not absolutely essential. So please don't put a burner email in there or an email in there that you don't check, because if they send you something, it's important. And if you miss it, it could mess things up. So please make sure that you're supplying an email to TEA that you're actually using. Then you just need to make sure that you've completed your profile. I think we still have one person that's missing their gender and ethnicity. This is going to mess things up when it comes time to test if you don't have that put in there. But if everybody would carefully check their account, because now you have time to fix whatever mistakes you might have. Whereas if you wait too close to testing, it may delay your testing if you have to have something fixed. Item number 2, your Tarleton email is the official means of communication. So if we're going to be sending something out of this office, out of EPS, and if it's going to go to the entire group, it's always going to go to your Tarleton email address. It's going to have something in the subject line, like if it comes from me, it's going to say something about certification testing. It might have something about admission status or certification from Miss Music, or field experience, clinical teaching, or year-long residency if it's coming from Miss Lanier. You really need to get in the habit of checking your Tarleton email regularly so that you don't miss something important. Now, after tonight, once you submit your request to test form to me, you'll have the opportunity to put an alternative email on there. And if I have to contact you individually, then I will use that email. Otherwise, if it's going to the entire group, it goes to your Tarleton email. And then you're going to know where your web pages are for all certification information. I urge you to keep the electronic copy of the handbook, because all of these links are active links and they'll take you directly to the pages that are notated on the pages. If I'm going too fast, somebody slow me down, okay? What exams will I need to take? So in this table, you'll want to find your certification area and highlight that. The certification area should match up what was on the letter of admission that you got from Miss Music back in August when you were admitted into the program. And then all of the exams that you'll need for that certification area are going to be listed on the right-hand column. So particularly our 4 through 8 people, I don't think we have anybody, I might be wrong, but I don't think that we have anybody in this group that is a 4 through 8 course subjects. Just be careful. Let me see. If you're 4 through 8 course subjects, then there's a specific test for that. But if you were admitted under a 4 through 8 content area, an actual content area, don't get mixed up with the course subjects. The numbers of the actual Texas exams match the numbers of what you're going to be completing in either 240 tutoring or, in some rare cases, certified teacher. So you always want to make sure you're referring to these numbers and that you're completing the correct study plans and that you're registering for the correct exam. And then as far as obtaining initial test approval, My understanding is this is what you're working on right now with either Dr. Lumbreras or Dr. Hill. They probably have you working on PPR and your content area, right? Shake heads if this is okay, very good. And then in your reading class, your 3484 or something like that, you should be working on the STR. Test approvals actually go through your academic department. So it's your academic department that set what the requirements are in order to obtain initial test approval. They'll be probably giving you a deadline by the end of the semester to get those taken care of. For the ESL, and if you're special education, that'll be taking place in other classes. But for right now, you should be working on PPR, content area, and STR. You're going to complete a request to test form. This is going to be due tonight. After we get off the Zoom, then you're going to be filling this out. There's a link. We're going to take a closer look at this, but there's a link that'll take you directly to that form. Once you get testing approval, your academic department actually forwards those approvals to me. I enter them in the testing system. I do not give any test approvals at all. I just enter the approvals that your academic department is approving you for. Once they get entered in the system, we'll take a closer look at this. Once they get entered in the system, then you begin to monitor your testing account. And once those exams hit, then you can start registering. Please note this, and you might want to highlight this. Approvals will be entered within 5 to 7 working days of receipt by myself, the testing coordinator. It typically doesn't take me that long, but if for some reason I'm out sick or something like that, then there may be a day or two lag time in there once your department sends them to me. And I do not send out separate notification once they've been in. You'll just need to continue to monitor your Pearson testing account to make sure that they've hit so you can start registering. Submitting your initial request to test form. Here are the instructions. You're going to submit this to me tonight. Okay, you're going to complete this once we get done talking, and you're going to send it to me following these instructions. You're going to go to this link. I'm not going to go to the link, but we're going to go to, there's a copy here included that we're going to take a closer look at. You're going to complete that form, making sure that you've checked all of the applicable boxes in the fields and you filled those in. You're going to save it to your desktop and you're going to name it Request a Test Form 4 with your name in it. See, you'll want to highlight this, Request a Test Document 4 with your first and last name in the subject line. You'll attach it to the email and you'll email it to me. Unless you want to hand deliver it. If you're going to hand deliver it, then have it to me in the morning. Now, if you want confirmation that I have received your form, you have to initiate that on your end of the email. So you can either do a delivery receipt or both, a read receipt, but that's something you set up when you actually set up the email. What I don't want you doing is sending me the form in the email and then turning around and sending a separate email and asking me, did you receive my form? Because I don't respond to those. So if you don't know how to do it, go into the help feature of your email platform and put in read receipt or delivery receipt, and there should be instructions on how to do that. Just make sure that you've filled in everything correctly and submit once. If for some reason, after you've submitted, you have discovered you made an error and you need to resubmit, at least tell me why you're resubmitting it. You know, in the subject line, you're still going to put your Request a Test Document 4 with your first and last name, but then in the body of the email, put in, I discovered I did such and such a mistake or whatever, so that I don't start getting confused which form I'm supposed to keep and have on file. All right, let's take a look at the form. You can see that the form here in the handbook has a watermark through it. That is because this is a fillable form. However, if you fill this out and submit this one, you're going to be sending me the entire handbook. So that's why I want you to use this link up here. This will take you to the website with the fillable form. So under applicant information, you just need to be very thorough in checking all these fields and filling everything in. Please note that this is your Tarleton ID number here, and this is your TEA ID number here, not a username, a number. And then you're going to check whatever your campus is, could be any of these, and then put in whatever address that if for some reason I can't get a hold of you by either telephone or email and I have to send you something, how I'm going to be able to contact you. Then you can put in your primary phone. If you have an alternate phone that I could reach you at, then include this. This is where you're going to put in your emails. If Tarleton is not the primary email that you check, put in your Yahoo or your Gmail account or whatever here. And then I'll know that that's the one that you prefer to be contacted at if I'm contacting you individually. But then go ahead and include your alternative Tarleton email. But if the Tarleton email is your primary, then go ahead and put that in, and then maybe a Yahoo or Gmail or some other account in here. I just need to be able to get a hold of you in the case that there's a question about something. And then everybody will be clicking a gender, and this information needs to match whatever you put in your TEA account when you set up your account, just like your race/ethnicity. However you set up your TEA account, please put the right thing or the same thing here. I get people who jump around on, but particularly these items quite frequently, and they really need to match because it goes towards our accreditation. And I've had people ask me about the options that are available here. As of right now, this is what our accreditation is all based on through TEA. These are the only options that they give us, so therefore they're the only options that I can offer. All right, program verification. So everybody should be checking traditional teacher education program. Please mark that on your hard copy. This gets missed a lot. I don't understand it why, but click that. And then you're going to find your content area. So for this group, you're either going to be one of these columns over here or SPED if you're admitted with special education. Our secondary ed, our seed majors, you would click this box and then put it out here. And I think we've got some ELAR and some social studies or history or something like that. This is all you're filling in on Part B. On Part C, applied to your certification program. Some of you will probably be spring of 2024, and some of you will probably be summer. So whichever it was when you made applications to the program, click that semester and then put the year out here. Expected program completion. I'm assuming that for the most part, you're going to plan on finishing in fall of 2005. So you're going to put that, unless you know it's going to be something different. Sometimes people know that they have to extend for classes that are only offered in 2-year rotations. And if that's the case, then you would put spring of 2026. And then everybody should be checking the year-long residency. And for the most part, you'll be starting in the spring and continuing into the fall of 2025, unless you know something differently. Just make sure you're checking all of these boxes, that you're thinking about what you're putting in if you're not making notation on your hard copy here. Okay, any questions about this first page? We'll keep going. Okay, the next page.
Brenda, can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, you bet, Dr. Lambreras.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I wanted to ask because I've got a couple of, and so for my students that are on here, you were talking about a secondary email address because I've got a couple of students that are out, they're teaching now, and they're trying to do some additional certifications. If they have 2 email addresses listed, will it make it easier for them to go back and get their records after their Tarleton email goes away? Like, because they won't have access to it forever.
You mean in the TEA system?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
I
that,
would
is that
strongly
here or
encourage.
is that?
I would strongly encourage, as a matter of fact, I think the instructions that I supplied last semester said when you set up your TEA account, you're encouraged not to use your Tarleton email address. But if you do have your Tarleton email address in your TA
Okay.
account, then definitely you'll want to change that because yeah, your Tarleton email will eventually go away. That's a good point, Dr. Lumbreras. That's a
Okay,
good
that's
point.
that's the only question I wanted to
Yeah,
ask. It's really good to see you.
yeah, I would definitely update that.
Okay.
Okay, the second page. Please note this, you're going to be checking all exams you will be required to take. So everybody's going to have to take the PPR, so you should be checking that. Most of you, not all of you, but most of you will be taking the Science of Teaching Reading. This is where you can refer back to that chart that was earlier in the handbook. Most of you will be ESL, and then you'll find your content area, which the majority of you people will probably be core subjects, but some of you may be one of these other content areas, or you may be one of the 4 through 8 content areas. The only exam right now that would pertain to this group that's not listed, these exams are all offered continuously they're all offered by computer, but these are offered continuously, meaning that there is no specific testing windows for these exams. But if you'll notice down here, if you're the early childhood pre-K through 3, this one has specific test windows. So when you start scheduling your exams, you're going to want to pay close attention to that because you're going to have test by and pass by dates you're going to have to meet. Now, if you've got a red asterisk after your content exam up here, notate these exams have specific score posting dates. So we're going to take a closer look at that because once again, you have to have passing scores posted by certain deadlines. So you're going to need to know when those scores will post based off when you register to take the exam. So does anybody have any questions here about what they should be checking on this? And that's all you do on the second page. That's all you complete. We'll keep moving. All right, we're not going to go over this in detail. These are the policies that govern the certification exams here at Tarleton. What I do want to call to your attention is item number 3. Candidates may take only 1 exam per administration date. So when you go in and start registering, it's possible for you to actually register to take 2 exams, maybe even 3 exams in the same day. However, Tarleton policy is that's a big no-no. And it's not because we're trying to punish you or we're trying to make things difficult. It's just that typically these exams are very strenuous. They take a lot out of you. And very few people that tried doing this in the past were successful with both exams. So therefore, we just want you to focus on 1 exam per day. But please, before you sign your name or enter your name, before you submit this form, make sure you have read through everything because I want to call to your attention. By signing below, I agree to adhere to the above stated policies and understand that failure to do so may result in the issuance of a flag and or ineligibility to complete the program in which I am enrolled. In other words, depending on the severity of the violation of the policy, you could be removed from the program, and we don't want that to happen. In the past, when something has come up like this, and it goes to Dr. Jones first, and students have said, well, I didn't know. And the first thing Dr. Jones is going to do is he's going to ask me to pull your request to test form to see if there's a signature on it. And if there's a signature on it, then there's no reason why you didn't know. So at this point in stage in your life, you shouldn't be putting your name on anything that you don't understand what you're signing. So please make sure that you read this thoroughly before you put a signature down there at the bottom. And then the last page of the form, you're just going to put your legal first and last name. And then down at the bottom here, once again, a signature. If you don't have a signature to put in there, I will accept it that you've typed it in. And then I know this is repeat of information that's on the first page, but TEA requires us to have this form in your file. So that's why that information is included again. I know I'm going through this quickly. Any questions at all about the form or what you need to do with the form? This is what you're going to complete tonight and submit to me before you go to bed tonight. Okay? Here's 240 tutoring information, but I think you already have this since you're working on this in class already. I just want to call attention to item number 4. If for some reason you're not able to achieve whatever the department has set forth for the requirements to get test approval, within the first 3 attempts of the practice exam, you have to contact 240 Tutoring, and you have to ask them to delete your study plan, and then they'll delete it on their end. I can't do it. They'll delete it on their end, but then you have to start all over from the very beginning. That's not just start all over the practice exams. That's start all over with everything. The study materials, the flashcards, the quizzes, and then it'll start releasing you to go into those practice exams. So when working with 240 Tutoring, I really want to caution you to make sure that you're using this program in the manner in which it is intended. If you're just using it to check a box, if you're just using it to go in and say, oh, I've got to get test approval, so I'm just going to do this as quickly as I can, this is not going to help you. This is not going to be this is not how it should be used. This is here to actually help you prepare to pass the exam. So the effort that you put into 240 Tutoring in most cases is going to reflect how well you do on the actual exam.
And if I can just echo Mr. Strong, guys, I don't have a lot of control over, as a matter of fact, I have no control over the parameters set through 240 Tutoring and the representative exam. Those of you that are with me know that you've got to get through the PPR with me. There's a minimum score on that representative exam. So please, please, please. I know it's a lot. I know I email you every week and I tell you, you got this, and I believe that, and I mean that. But Mr. Strong is right. Like you got to use this in the way that it was intended to be used, because especially for you all who are not in a class with me, you're out in the field and our only communication. Please, 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 do your best with it and get as much out of it as you can so that you can just move forward, because that's what all of us want. And that's the truth. Okay.
And we want you to be successful on your first attempt.
Yes.
So, the amount of time that you put into it on the front end, in most cases, directly reflects how people perform on the actual state certification exam. We want all of our students to be done with the first take and not have to do retakes. So student flagging procedure, this is something that should have been covered in your initial education classes. You can read through this. Anybody in the education department can issue flags for these various things. If you want to see a copy of the flag, there's the direct link. If for some reason you are issued a flag, that isn't something that you initiate. Whoever is issuing the flag initiates it on their end, then they send it to you for signature, or you might even have a conference with that person. It just depends on if it's a first flag, a second flag, a third flag, or how severe the issue is that you're being flagged for. Things that I might submit a flag for. Okay, I'm going to submit a flag if I don't get your requested test. I shouldn't have to repeatedly ask for that. That's something that you should be taking care of right away. If you miss a test by date, you'll get a flag for missing the test by date, and we're going to look at the form. Otherwise, those are just about the only things that I'll be issuing flags on. And normally I'm usually one of the people that's on the front end of flags. So it's typically a first flag. It just depends on, if you've been naughty or not before I get to you. Usually it's not that big of a deal, just as long as it doesn't continue. And then you can see that as the flags increase, so does the severity of the repercussions of them. If you need special accommodations and you have a documented disability, if you'll recall, when you took block 1, you completed a PowerPoint, and that PowerPoint indicated at that time you should go ahead and get started on getting your documents put together. You need to read through this carefully. This takes you to all of the information on the Pearson website. If you haven't already gotten started on this, you need to get started on this now. You need to know what's expected from Pearson if you need any special accommodations. So please check this out right away and get working on this. Now, our office does not help with this. EPS, right up here, EPS or the testing coordinator are not involved in this process due to FERPA reasons, although it may be possible that the disabilities office could provide assistance. Okay, so if you need help, if you're confused, go to them and somebody over there should be able to help you. And I think they've changed the name of disability office. I'm not sure what it is now, but that's what it's been known by for years and years. So I'm an old dog and I don't learn new tricks very well. Okay, registering for the Texas exams once those approvals have been entered. As I've already said that once your department sends notification to me of approvals for your exams, I get those entered just as quickly as I possibly can, but expect that they could take within 5 to 7 working days for that happen. You will need to monitor your Pearson account for those approvals because I do not send out separate notifications. We've got people who are getting approved for all different exams at all different times, and I just can't keep up with that. You must test and retest by the dates established in the year-long residence testing guide table, which is the next page. We're going to take a look at that. And then if you fail to meet those required dates, you'll receive a flag. So it's really important that once you get test approval, you go ahead and you get registered to test as quickly as you can so that you can meet those established dates. You'll want to make sure when you're registering that you are aware of the date that you're registering for and when those exam scores are going to post. They don't all post at the same time, so you'll want to take a close look at that for each exam. When you register, you are going to be bombarded by all kinds of information. They're going to tell you the do's and the don'ts. They're going to tell you the acceptable forms of identification in order to get in. Not all locations require the same number of IDs. There may be some that require 1, some that require 2, but just make sure that all of your documentation that you use for ID is original and they cannot be expired. They will not accept photocopies or cell phone pictures, but you can't even take your cell phone into the testing facilities. So that's kind of a moot point. So just make sure when you're checking your documentation, especially your driver's license, that it's not expired. Also, your first and last name must match whatever you have in your testing account with whatever's on your documentation. If it doesn't match, and they're not looking at middle name, they're not looking at address, they're just looking at first and last name. If it doesn't match by law, they have to turn you away. And if it's expired by law, they have to turn you away. And then lastly, you will need to know if the exam that you're taking requires any special tools. This applies primarily if you're science or math. If they tell you you can bring your own calculator, then they're going to tell you what are the acceptable models. Otherwise, if you need to use their online calculator, you'll want to make sure you familiarized yourself with that before you go in and take the exam. And then the safest rule of thumb is to just familiarize yourself with all Pearson materials. So that's what we're going to go ahead and take a look at now. We're going to go into the Pearson. Okay. Can everybody see this? Texas Educator Certification. Okay, thank you. This is actually the Pearson testing site. It doesn't say Pearson, but Pearson's the people that own this. No, up in the upper right-hand corner, this is on every single page. There's a contact us. I don't know why everything's working so slow. Everything that you click in here, you're always going to want to make sure you get the tab that says Texas, okay? So we're going to expand all. If you need to contact them, and I cannot help you in this website, but it's pretty self-explanatory. It's very user-friendly, but if you have issues with it, you will need to contact them. You can contact them by email. You can call, and you'll get somebody live during these hours. There's live chat that's available lots of time. You just have to check the availability. But there's the information on how to get a hold of them. And that's on every single page. So let's go back. So when you go in initially to set your account up, and you can do this at any time, you click on register. I really don't know why we're so slow here tonight. I don't know if it's a Tarleton thing or if it's a web. And then once again, always make sure you're clicking on the tab that has Texas. Register now. Maybe it's the Pearson site. I don't know. Okay, so if you haven't created your account yet, you're going to click down here, create your account. And I'm not going to click on it because it walks you through all this stuff. But this is where you're going to set up your account. Make note of this. Whatever you put in your TEA account, however you set that up, whatever information you have in there that they're asking for the same information in Pearson, that information must match. So that's another reason why you should be checking your Teal account. If there's any variance, it could cause problems down the line because TEA has to talk with Pearson. I actually enter your test approvals in the TEA account, which talks to Pearson. So just make sure however you set this up is the same way you set up your testing account, your Pearson testing account. Once you've done that, then you log in and the exams that you've been approved for should pop up. Let's take a look at preparation materials. I'm going to go ahead and start with, you don't want any of these Texas packed. You don't want any of this. You don't want any packed. You want to make sure that you're going down to Texas exams. You always want Texas exams. Let's go ahead and take a look at the PPR since everybody has to have that. For all exams that you need to take, you should be reviewing these materials for every single exam. If you skip this step, you're only 50% prepared, and I'll show you why. You can go through the developing a study plan in your student profile about the Texas exams, how to prepare for the exams. I'm going to start with the overview and the framework. So this shows you that for the PPR, it's 5 hours. Most of these exams are 5 hours long. It's 100 selected response questions, meaning that it's 100 multiple choice. It gives you the standards. Then it tells you for the domains and competencies, what percentage of those questions fall under those domains. And then you can go ahead and scroll down and use this as a checklist. You can go through domain 1. You can go through each of these competencies because this is what they're going to expect you to know on this exam. So you can read through these and say, yep, I know that, I know that. Oops, I'm not as familiar with that as I should be. And then you would know that you need additional help in that area. Next page. Selected response questions for the PPR. They're going to give you, I think it's 40 for the PPR. You would read through the question, mentally select your answer, and then click on the answer. I'm not going to click because it's going to show you what the right answer is. This will tell you what the right answer is, why it's right, and it's going to explain why the other questions are not right. But the beauty of all of these practice questions, you get some for every single domain. You get, I think, at least one for every single competency. This is going to give you an indication of the types of questions that they ask and how they ask them. I think there's about 5 different ways that they ask questions. So if you go through all of this, you probably will not see the exact question on the exam that you take, but you may see something very similar. But it's also going to show you how they ask questions. The way they ask questions on 240 tutoring is nothing like the way they ask these on these exams. So again, I'm going to caution you. You really need to go through this for every exam you need to take. This is here to help you be successful. And then this last, let me see. No, I need to go back to 2. How to prepare for the exams. I shouldn't have skipped over this. Learn what the exam covers, access how well you know the content. This is where you would familiarize yourself with the different types of exam questions. And I'm sorry, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 ways that they ask questions. So you're going to want to read through this, because sometimes when students aren't successful, I'll ask them, what do you think it was? Do you think it was a knowledge issue, or do you think it was, oh, I can't think now what the term is, but the way you approach the question. And well, I wasn't sure exactly what they were looking for, or I will hear, I didn't know how to answer that particular question. They're telling you the types of questions that you're getting. They're telling you approaches. They're giving you examples. So once again, if you haven't done this, then you're going to only be 50% prepared when you go in to take the exam. So you'll want to look at that for every single exam. Now, some of you are going to have a selected response. Not a selected response, a constructed response. There's a constructed response on the a lot of the 4 through 8s. There's a constructed response on the 7 through 12 ELAR. There's a constructed response on STR. You're going to need to cover that. Let's look at the STR, since so many people have to have that. You do not want to go into the exam and not know, let me see, science of teaching reading. You don't want to go into any of these exams that have a constructed response. Here's the sample constructed response. General directions. You can see it's quite detailed. You're probably going to have to watch some kind of a video, and then you have to do a response. So can you imagine your surprise if you went in expecting all multiple choice, and then this gets thrown at you while you're taking the exam? So just make sure you're paying attention to all of this. The last thing we're going to look at in here is scores. When you go into register, Texas, once again, we're going to look at PPR, but keep in mind that not all of these exams follow the same score reporting date. So this tells you if you test between these dates, when your score report will hit. So this is going to come into play, especially when you have to have passing scores posted. And we're going to look at the chart, so you know that. So the first passing scores that you have to have posted are going to be before your TR2 semester, and it's going to be for your STR, your PPR, and your content. So for the PPR, in order to meet, I think it's going to be a December 15th. We need to make sure we're looking at 2025, not 2024. In order to meet that December 15th deadline, you would have to test between 12.8 and 12.10 in order to hit that 12.15. So just be looking at this for every single exam that you have to take, because some of them are different. Some of them are the same, and some of them are different. This is a pretty intuitive site, so I don't expect that you'll have any problems. This is another way that you can get to, if you need accommodations, just by at the home page, alternative arrangements, just like the link. And I don't know why they make you select an exam, because it's the same no matter what. But this is where you would actually get all of that information. And you can see there's quite a bit of information here. So this, you have to get started on this right away so that you can have this ready to submit and in place by the time you get your approvals, so that you can meet those initial test by dates. So I got to back through a bunch of this stuff to get through back to the handbook. And then I think it's going to take me to the very first page. Well, didn't want that. Didn't want that. There we go. All righty. That's the drawback of getting out of the PDF. All right, so that's the page we just finished up with, was the registering. Any questions about that? Okay. Testing, the testing guide table here. You will be spring residency starts. So you will be starting TR1 in the spring. You will be following this column. Okay? This is the column you're going to follow. So you have test by dates for the content area and the STR, if it applies, which you have to test those two exams by no later than January 15th. That's the coming up of January 15th. If you need a retest by, then you have to retest by April 15th. If another one's needed, you have to retest by June 1st. And then here's the passing score. You have to have passing scores posted by August 1st in order to continue on to TR2. The test by dates for PPR is a little bit different. You're going to have that tested by June 15th. Okay, you get a little extension with that. So June 15th. And then here's the ESL and the, wait, I think my dates are off here. Let me think about this. You're going to take TR2 in the fall. Yeah, my dates are off. Okay, I'm going to correct this testing guide table, the things that I see here that are off. What's the date on this? Yeah, there's something off here. I'm sorry, I cannot get my head around this. I will take a closer look at this and I will email this to you through the EAB system. I'll do this tomorrow.
Will you send that to me too,
Yeah,
Mr.
sure.
please?
Yeah, I sure will.
Thank you, ma'am.
Something just doesn't, it doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't seem right. So I'm making myself a note here. And
Okay.
then if I will also update the handbook and send a new handbook as well. I've got to figure out what's going on. It just doesn't, there's something hinky here. But anyway, once I get this straightened out, you just need to make sure that you are following this. This is where it would come into play. If you miss a test by date, you're going to, you'd get a flag issued. If you miss a pass by date, then you don't get to go on to the next, you're held back. You're held back from going forward. If you don't have the STR and the PPR and everything passed in time, then you can't go forward. But I've got to take a look at this. There's something I don't, it's crazy to me tonight, and maybe it's just me. Okay, so things to keep in mind. Candidates will not receive separate notification of those test approvals. You just need to keep monitoring your Pearson testing account. We've talked about issuing a flag if for some reason if you fail those test by and retest by dates. So once I get this completed table back to you where I know it's all correct and right, then you're going to want to refer to this continuously, because these aren't suggested dates, people. These are actually solid established dates that you must follow. And we're not, number one, we want you to be successful on the first attempt. So that's where the preparation part of this comes into play. The better you are prepared when you take it the first time, the better chance you have of passing it on the first time. We want to eliminate those retests because, number one, they're time intensive. You have to go through retest requirements in order to get approval, and they're expensive. Most of these exams are 120, some of them are 140, so it's expensive to have to do retakes as well. So we just want to make sure that you're staying on track, and especially once you get into the TR1 semester, it's very easy for that semester to get away from you and let the testing go by. We had that initially when we started the year-long residence, which is why these retest by dates were implemented. They weren't as a punishment. They were to keep you on track so that we didn't have to keep you from going on to TR2 if you didn't have the exams passed in time. Candidates are responsible for contacting the department concerning mandatory remediation sessions. I'll go back up here. You can see contact academic department for mandatory remediation session dates. That's usually after test by dates, but you'll need to get with your faculty mentor or with your department head to find out what exactly is going to be required of you and if there are mandatory remediation sessions. Passing these exams does not certify you as a teacher. Okay, you cannot be recommended for certification until you have completed all your coursework, you've had a successful clinical teaching experience, you've graduated, and your degree has posted in the Tarleton system. When you're about halfway through your final semester, your TR2 semester, then Miss Music will send out instructions to you that tells you how to apply for certification. But we have had students in the past that have assumed once they have all of their exams passed, they're automatically certified, and that is not the case. Just keep that in mind. For course subjects retakes, for the EC through 6, there's 5 subject areas. In order to be, and if you're EC through 6, you might want to highlight this because this comes up quite frequently. You have to pass all 5 of those subject areas in order to get a passing grade on the exam. Now, if for some reason you fail 2 or more and need a retake, then what you do is when you register for the exam, you have to register for the entire exam, but you scroll through the subsections that you've already passed and just retake the ones that you have remaining to pass. The only time the system will let you register to take one subject area is if that's all you have left to pass. Otherwise, you're registering for the entire exam. You're just scrolling through those ones you've passed and just take the ones you still have left to pass. This comes into play because you are limited to be approved through Tarleton for 5 attempts on any one given exam. So if you were to take those subsections separately, you could test out on those and exceed the 5 attempt rule. We're going to talk about this a little bit more, so don't get hung up on this. So if for any reason a candidate is removed from a year-long residency and is required to finish the program by means of a traditional clinical teacher semester, all required Texas exams must be passed by these dates. And there's multiple reasons why somebody might get removed from a TR1 and have to go into a traditional clinical teaching semester for their last semester, but we don't need to get into that tonight. Okay, how to register. We've already gone through this. I've asked everybody to please go in and carefully check your TEA account. Plus, you'll want to refresh your memory about how you set that up and the information that you put in so that when you set up your Pearson account, and there's the link that takes you to that Pearson website. This walks you through the steps. It's a 2-step process. You actually register to take the exam and then you schedule it and pay. Or maybe you pay after you register and then you schedule it. So there's a little bit more information, but it's intuitive. Once again, if you have problems either with TEA or with Pearson, you're going to want to contact them directly. I'm useless when it comes to that. I cannot get in and see what y'all are seeing and know what you're doing and the issues that you're having. So you need to contact those entities directly. If you need a retest, we're not going to go through this. We're not going to go through this. This is something that you're going to have to go through. Once you receive your score report, a 240 is a passing score on every exam. 240 is passing, 300 is perfect. It's the same for the subsets for 4 subjects, either the EC through 6 or the 4 through 8. The 4 through 8 only has 4 subsets there, but you have to score a 240 or better on each of those subsets. If you've scored a 240 or higher, then you've passed the exam. But if for some reason you get your score report and it's less than a 240, then you need to turn to this immediately and start working on this. This walks you through what you need to do for remediation, and it's all going to depend on which request it is. So if this is your first request to retest, walks you through it. It's got links that take you to the forms. Just make sure you're following all the instructions. Then if you've got a second request to test, then it changes up a little bit. And then all the way up to a third or fourth. But our hope is to get you through this with proper preparation initially, so you don't have to go through the retest process. There's additional forms that need to be filled out as well. So once you discover you're going to need a retest, get started on this right away. It's going to take you some time. I frequently get asked about additional test preparation resources. Please keep in mind that my responsibility is to get you through the testing process. It's actually your department's responsibility to prepare you for the exams and make sure that you're prepared. However, I have listed additional materials that I'm aware of. First are the free ones, and then next ones are commercial, meaning that they're paid. However, if you go into YouTube and Google, and you just do a search for free Texas study materials for the name of whatever exam, there is a ton of resources out there, a ton of resources. So if you feel as though 240 tutoring is not cutting it for you, or that you maybe didn't do as well on the representative form and you just want more assurance of preparation, I would suggest taking a look at these or contacting your department and saying, what more do you have that I can complete? Here's direct links to a lot of things. They'll take you directly to these things. A lot of it's course subjects. Here's a bunch of ESL, special education, science of teaching, reading. I haven't checked these links recently. When I did this page a couple semesters ago, they were all working links. So I hope they are. If they aren't, then I apologize, but just do a YouTube search or a Google search. Okay. Important testing information and reminders. Some of this will be repeat, some of it will be new, but we're going to go through it again because these are things that come up repeatedly when it comes to testing. You've got to be willing to put in the time and effort and to thoroughly read all the information that's given to you as far as preparation and this handbook. We can't go through this. We'd be here all night if we were going to go through this word by word. You're required to complete your test approval requirements. This is set forth by your department. They're going to be, your department's going to be submitting those approvals to me. I'm going to enter them just as quickly as I possibly can. The requested test form is due tonight. Once we get done here, you're going to fill that out and get that submitted to me. If I have to hit you up for the form, you're going to start out right off the bat you're going to start right off the bat with a flag. I hate issuing flags. It's my least favorite part of this job. I just hate doing it. So I don't want to. It's your responsibility to meet those test by, retest by, and pass by deadlines. I will take a look at the form in the morning, and if any corrections need to be made, I'll get that to you right away. Like I said, I can't wrap my mind around it right now. I think that there's some issues there. You can start registering right away once those approvals have been entered in. Don't confuse the Texas PAC. You always want Texas exams.
Can I just interject real quick, Ms. Strong? I'm sorry, I was having a coughing fit. When Mrs. Strong is talking about the retests, just all of you have faculty mentors, and that's sort of something, you're going to come to us with this stuff. If you got a retest by, April 15th, you cannot come to your faculty mentor April 10th and go, what am I supposed to do? It doesn't work that way. Please don't do that to your faculty mentors. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to anybody else. If you weren't successful and you got a retest, give us some time to work with you and get you the resources. I mean, there's things that I just don't know. I don't know where to get you resources. If I'm your faculty mentor, I don't know where to get you ELAR stuff. I mean, I know we have things in the pages, but I got to find someone that you can go talk to and that they can give you some guidance, or I can ask for some guidance. So please don't wait until the last minute. That just it inhibits us, it inhibits everybody from trying to help you. And that's all we want to do is help you be successful. But please don't wait until the last minute to ask. Okay. That's all.
Okay, we've talked about the documented disability. I cannot stress that enough. I have people wait until the last minute to start getting those into place too. It takes time. You've got to get it. You have to have test approvals in the system before you can actually submit your materials and before you can schedule your exam. So that's why it's so important that you have everything into place before that point. And we've actually extended the test by dates to give additional 2 weeks to get this done. But if you're going to wait to the last minute and then submit it to Pearson and then have them say, you didn't submit the right thing or this was wrong, it's going to hold you up. It's going to hold you up and you're going to miss those dates. So just make sure you get started on this right away if this applies to you. Those Texas exams must be completed according to the dates outlined. And once again, I will get this to you tomorrow. I will take a closer look at that and see if I can figure out what's going on. We talked about the cost. The exams range from either $120 to $140. It just depends. If you have a constructed response in there, it's going to be $140. And all of these exams are computer administered. Talked about the testing policy of only taking one exam per calendar day. I do record registrations every week. If I go into registrations and if I see you're registered to take 2 exams on the same day, I will delete the test approval, which will screw up your registration and you will be issued a flag. You just cannot be doing this to yourself. And what happens too if people wait until the last minute and they're down to the wire, then sometimes they think, well, the only way I'm going to meet the test by or the posting score if I test 2 exams on the same day. It doesn't work that way. If you've put yourself in a bind, and if that's the case, if that's what comes up because you haven't stayed on top of things, then that's on you. That's not on us. We're still going to follow the policy of 1 exam per day. And I'm sorry to sound like I'm being a real ogre about this. I just see this happening over and over and over again, and I don't know how to get the point across that it's not acceptable. It's just plain not acceptable. We talked about checking for your score report. Just make sure that whatever date you're scheduling, that you're going to be able to meet the dates established in the testing guide table. Please highlight this. You do not need to submit your Texas exam scores to the testing coordinator. That's me. I will know your test scores before you do. I get them the same day, but I usually get them in the morning. They'll tell you you'll have them by 10 o'clock that night. You usually have them sooner, but they're posted on Tuesdays and Fridays. They might miss a day depending on the holiday schedule, but do not submit them to me. Every semester I get emails. Where do I submit my scores? Where do I submit my scores? It's all taken care of for you. You don't have to submit them to anybody. Something we have not talked about is item number 11. State law requires a 30-day wait period between attempts if a retake for an exam is necessary. This is not a Tarleton rule. This is a state rule. So let's say you took the PPR and were not successful on it and had to do a retest. You still need to start the retest process right away. You don't wait 30 days to start the retest process. You start that immediately after discovering you need a retest. You can get test approval before the 30 days is up. The only thing that this 30 days does is when you go in to register for a retake, the system is not going to allow you to select a date that was sooner than 30 days since your last attempt. You don't even have to, well, yeah, I mean, you probably need to look at a calendar to estimate, but I mean, if you elect a date that's sooner than 30 days, the system's going to kick it out. So once again, start the retest right away. You can register before the 30 days. You just cannot select a date that's sooner than 30 days. Item 12, that you're gonna have to complete additional requirements in order to get those retests. So, make sure you follow that sequence page, those sequence pages, if that pertains. All right, state law permits a total of 5 attempts for any one given exam. I need to clarify this. Tarleton can only approve you for a maximum of 5 attempts. If for some reason you max out and you still want to continue to test, then there is a waiver process you can go through the state. However, the state's going to charge you $168 just to submit a waiver process. And then they're going to require you to jump through even more hoops for a retest than what Tarleton is going to require. And it's a lengthy process because it actually goes through the State Board of Educator certification people for approvals. So keep in mind that the vast majority of our students are able to pass all exams within minimal attempts, but once again, it's going to depend on how much effort you put into your test preparation. We talked about checking your teal account. The one person, I think there's only one person left that didn't have gender and ethnicity in there. If I go in to do test approvals and it's not in there, you're not getting test approvals, whoever that is. We talked about the legal documentation, but your first and last name has to be correct. It can't be expired, only original IDs. There are various locations of testing sites. The sooner you register for exams, the better chance you have of getting the day, the time, and the location. Tarleton is a testing facility for the Texas exams. However, the last I knew, I think they only offered Texas exams 2 or 3 times a week, and they don't offer every exam every day. If you're going home at Christmas and you've got a testing center close by your home, you're free to test wherever you want. So just register early to be able to obtain your optimal testing date and location. We talked about your Tarleton email being the official way of communication. Item number 18, don't take anything into the testing center other than your exam confirmation email and required IDs. Like I said, Pearson is going to bombard you with registration. When you register with information about the testing centers, you're going to need to make sure that you read all that very, very carefully. We've already talked about if you have to lay out a semester. If for some reason and there might be like a financial reason or a family emergency or a medical situation, please keep Educator Preparation Services informed. We don't get a lot of information that trickles down, even like if you were to go to student services or something like that, doesn't come to us. So just make sure you're keeping us informed of any changes that might impact your field experiences so that we can make the adjustments. It kind of looks bad when we think you're going out into the field and at the last minute we have to contact the school and say, oh, just kidding, they're not coming after all. So please keep us up to date. We talked about passing exams does not certify you as teacher. Your teaching certifications are not listed on your diploma. Your major will be listed on your diploma. Your certifications will be listed on your teacher certificate that's issued by TEA. PPR is not a certification, so you will only have your content, and then if you have ESL, then those would be the 2 that would be listed. Now, if you're interested in after the fact of adding additional teaching, I'm sorry, I got to do something about this mouse. It's awful. If you want to add additional, what you have to do is you wait until your initial standard certificate has been awarded, and then you can go through Pearson. Tarleton has no control over you at that point. You go into Pearson, you can start testing any one of those classroom level content exams. However, as you pass them, you have to apply to have them added to your certificate. They do not automatically add. So this might be something that you want to highlight if you think you're interested in doing that. Last semester, you were told about the Dennis P. McCabe Scholarship. I want to urge everybody to do that. Anytime you have questions about what exam approvals you have, please don't contact me and ask me, am I approved for this? You go into your Pearson account. If the approval is has been entered, it'll be there. If you're expecting an approval and that 5 to 7 days has passed and it's not there, then hit me up because there might be something going on. Either I haven't received it from your department yet, or I've overlooked it, or I failed to hit the save button when I went in. I do make mistakes. So you can hit me up if you're expecting something and the time has passed and it's not there. Then as far as additional questions, any questions that you have, if you cannot find it in the testing book, in this testing handbook, please call me. It's not that I don't like emails. It's just that usually the answers are so detailed that unless I'm talking with you and we can discuss it, that I know that we're all on the same page and you understand what I'm trying to relay to you. And then I'm not going to continue beating this as a dead horse, but it's just important that once you do get test approval, that you continue to prepare right up until the time you're scheduled to take the exam. If you get early approval for these exams, but you're not doing anything to prepare in the interim up until that, you're probably not going to retain all that information. There's no shortcuts, people. I know that people overlook this. There are no shortcuts to this. If you try to shortcut 240 tutoring, you're going to get yourself in trouble. If you try shortcutting going through the materials that's available on the Pearson website, you're cheating yourself. You're literally cheating yourself. And then this page is all of the active links that are throughout the handbook. I've put them all on one page, so it might be a little bit easier to find them. And this last page is the information about the Dennis P. McCabe Scholarship. Okay, so any questions at all at this point? Anything? Okay, so what are you going to submit to me tonight?
Request a test.
The requested test form, right? Very good, very good. I don't have anything else, Dr. Lumbreras. Do you have anything you want to include here before we sign off?
No, I miss you guys. I hope you're good.
Thank you very much for your attention. I know that this information can seem overwhelming. I think once you actually get started in the process, it's all going to fall into place. We've been doing this now for years, semester after semester, and I acknowledge that this information can be rather intimidating, but everybody gets through it. Everybody, you can do this. You can you just have to stay on top of not only this, but your classwork as well. So, I mean, I'll hang back if anybody's too shy to ask a question in front of the group. I'll hang back if anybody wants to ask a question, but other than that, you're free to go, and I'll be looking for your requested test forms when I get in the morning.
Thank you,
Okay?
Brenda, very
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
I